What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 40, AYS Fight Club. Everybody's had a great week. Got a lot of good MMA coming up this weekend. Got a UFC on ESPN 28, Bellator 263, Combate Global has a event on Saturday. Actually, on Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. LFA's got some fights on tomorrow. So we got a lot going on. We'll go ahead and jump into the usual. If you're not already, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. It's AYS Sports. If you can't catch us on Facebook, catch us on YouTube. Go ahead over there, hit the subscribe button over there. Also follow us on Twitter, AYS Fight Club on Twitter. It's AYS_Fight Club. Type that in there, add us, and let's get rolling here. As Blake said, let's go. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. We'll go ahead and talk about last week's stuff and then move forward. Last week, UFC on ESPN 27. We'll just hit the main card here. Start from the bottom, work our way up. Adrian Yanez and Randy Costa. Firefight as expected. That's what we expected from that fight. Whenever the Macy Chasson bout and Aspen Ladd come off, which they actually just announced is going to be set for October 9th, I think, whatever that event is. So at least we got a reset on that one. That was actually the fight I was looking most forward to, that one. But, whenever that fight came off, the Yanez Costa fight is the perfect replacement, opened up the card, just bombs, it's kind of what you expected. But in the second round, Yanez was able to get the stoppage, get that TKO stoppage in round two, moves to 14-3. Next fight, and just about as close as you could get, and as close as we expected it to be. Maybe you asked 100 people, they probably had 50-50 on who they thought would have won. Even after the fight, you can ask 100 people, 50-50 would have said, who they thought won. Very close fight. A split decision between Macy Barber and Miranda Maverick, with Macy Barber getting the taking the decision. And as close as can be, just two young up and coming fighters. Like I said, almost kind of what we've expected, so far on the main card. But both of these are just two amazing fighters. They both look great in the fight. Even Maverick said, I didn't quite do enough, to get the win afterward, in her comments that she made. But man, it was as close as it could be. Keep going along, and man, we talked about this too. It's exactly what we said about Darren Elkins and Derek Minner. Second round TKO for Darren Elkins, 348. And just exactly what they said. This dude is not out until the referee calls the fight. You cannot coast. You cannot think that you had a 10-8 round. You cannot think you have a 10-7 round on him. You have got to put Darren Elkins away. If you give him a chance to come back, he will. This is like a veteran of the game, like a hardcore veteran, 26-9 now. And just as expected, takes a beating and then comes back and just, blows you away. And that's pretty much what happened. Come back, got the TKO stoppage, gets another big win. Just, a guy that puts on a show. And in the co-main event, Julian Pavea and Kyler Phillips. And kind of what we talked about too, was the experience going to weigh out on the young Phillips? And that's kind of what happened with Pavea. He's now 21-3. So that's 23 pro fights before coming into that, about 3 times as much as what Phillips had. So, there is something to say for experience. You can have all the skill in the world, but experience does come into play at some point. And that's when you get the majority decision. That's what happened. It was a 28-28 on one card. But that's going to happen. Phillips is still, young guy in the game. He still got, plenty of life left in him to go. But, it was a close fight, and maybe this is something you need. A lot of times fighters need that, that loss to kind of give them that boost. And that's maybe what Phillips needs to give him a little boost. And then going into the main event, split decision. TJ Dillashaw, Corey Sandhagen, and Dillashaw taking a split decision. Looking good for being on the shelf for 2.5 years, I guess it was. I think it was January of 19 when he had his last fight. So, I mean, that was, TJ Dillashaw, he went in there, he got the win. That's all you can do. For Sandhagen, man, just it's an opportunity lost. With the win, I really think he could have found himself sitting in there, to meet Aljamain again. Um, or at least, like we said, get him in a match with Peter Yan, and the winner, goes to Aljamain. But he had himself set up, and it fell through. The cards fell through for him. I mean, sometimes it happens. Sometimes you get the break, and sometimes you don't. And he didn't. Do I think TJ Dillashaw should get the next title fight? No, definitely not. Could he be the champion? Yeah, absolutely he could. But I would like to see another one out of him. So we'll see. I mean, if they're doing the Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan rematch, maybe get Dillashaw on the same card with somebody, and we'll see what can happen. I'll have to look at the rankings to see who's where, who's matched up with what, see who's open. Um, but yeah, I would like to see one more before Dillashaw gets a title fight already, especially just with everything behind him, just kind of help clear it up a little bit. Um, we'll see. But I mean, hey, get in there, you go in there and you get the win. That's all that matters, against somebody like Corey Sandhagen, who's been on a roll. His last two fights before the Dillashaw fight were spectacular first round knockouts. They had the roundhouse kick or spinning wheel heel kick and the flying knee. So he was riding high on momentum to come in and take a guy like that out for Dillashaw. For everything that's behind him and everything he's been through, it's huge. So we'll see what's to come next for everybody on this card. We'll see what's going to happen with TJ Dillashaw. We'll see who's next for Macy Barber. She can continue her climb up. Brendan Allen, local fighter here in Louisiana, got the decision win. Gave Soriano his first loss as a pro. So we'll see. We'll see what the cards hold. But yeah, we'll just have to see how the title fight falls out with Aljamain, and go from there, and we'll see where TJ falls from there. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next event, which is the event Saturday at the Apex, and is going to be UFC Fight Night Hall versus Strickland. But like the official title, we kind of talked about that last week with the ESPN and the Vegas, all these different things they have, is UFC on ESPN 28. So that's the title for this event here, with obviously Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland, middleweights in your main event. We'll hit the main event, main cards, and work our way up from there. So we'll start at the opener here. We got Brian Barberena and Jason Witt. Man, Barberena made a big name for himself whenever he got that win over Sage Northcutt. That was kind of the downfall of Sage Northcutt, where they kind of built him up and it just kind of all fell out from underneath. This is kind of that, that was the beginning of the end for him. But Brian Barberena is a dangerous fighter. He's a tough, gritty fighter. He can get the submission. He can pound it out. He's a tough fighter. So, we'll see, what happens with that one. Jason Witt, definitely needs to win. Definitely needs to win. He's in for a tough right now. This is, Barberena's always a tough contest to get in there with. Then next we got Ryan Benoit and Zaruka Adashev. So, I know Adashev's 3-3. Hasn't been a great run in the UFC for him thus far. But Ryan Benoit is just one of those tough guys. He's been around for a while. Adashev, I know he was in Bellator for a little bit. Yeah, he had one fight in Ring of Combat, and then 3-0 in Bellator. So all of his wins have come in Bellator, and every time he's been in the UFC, he's lost so far. 0-2 in the UFC. So he's still hunting that first UFC win, and at 125 pounds, it's not going to come easy. He's going to have to get in there with some tough guys from top to bottom and just see what he can do to get one out. Benoit, 10-7 right now. On a he's lost 3 of his last 4. Um, you know, so we'll see. His last time he was in there was in July of last year against Tim Elliott. So it's been a year for him. Maybe time to shake the cobwebs loose, like we talked about with Dillashaw last week when I said sometimes a layoff like that for 2.5 years is a good thing. You get bumps and bruises along the way. You never really 100% when you step into the octagon. You step into any cage, any ring, you're never going to be 100%. Just the beatings you take in sparring and training, you're always going to be sore. You're always going to be hurt to some extent when you get into the cage. You're never 100%. So, that time off can do a lot to help heal those bodies, mend those wounds. And when you get back in there, you're just a totally different animal. Maybe that's the thing for Ryan Benoit. He's always kind of flip-flopped the wins and losses. Obviously, before the UFC, he was winning. But when you get up to that level, which he's been there since 2013, he's got to win over Sergio Pettis. He flip-flops, but here lately it's been a rough go. So both of these guys kind of in the hunt for a win. Somebody's got to win. Well, not necessarily. I guess it could be a draw. I guess, which for guys that are struggling like this is the worst thing possible can happen. So with their luck, that might be what ends up happening here. The next fight is at welterweight. It was a super late fight put together. Nicholas Stoltz from Germany, 12-4, is taking on Jared Gooden, who took on the fight yesterday, I think Wednesday. So like 3 or 4 days notice, jumping in there, taking on the fight. It's been a rough go for him so far in the UFC, but that's how you do it. You jump in there, take your shots, and see what happens. You just never know. It's just as hard for your opponent. You're coming in on late notice. It's rough on you too, but it's just as rough on your opponent too because they train for somebody else, and then you come in. So to an extent, it's just as rough on them. Stoltz lost his debut in last July in the UFC. So he's looking for his first win. This is going to be his second time in the octagon. Before that, he's fought in Octagon, which is based in Poland. Nova, Cage, so he's got a lot of European experience. He's got a lot of good ones over there, submissions, finishes. Jared Gooden has fought actually here by local, I mean, Gulf Coast area for Empire. He fought at Empire FC5. He's fought for Island Fights, which is based in Florida. So it's all kind of this area. He's kind of a Gulf Coast area fighter. Wins in Titan FC. When he got to the UFC, kind of struggling. 0-2 so far. Alan Joban and Akbar Nurmagomedov, both decision losses, and which the Akbar fight was in March. So he's been in there more recently. So this may be the right situation, to jump in there and get a sneaky win. You get a win, take a fight on fight week for the company, and then you get a win on top of it, all the better for you, So we'll see, not a, sometimes it's a win-win for him. If you lose and, hey, you took the fight on, 3 days notice or whatever, so it's worth a shot, and you see this guy's come, only fought once in the octagon and he's lost. So, you may think that you might be able to pick him off. So we'll see. That may be what Gooden's thought process is, and he might be able to do it. It wouldn't surprise me. But moving on up here, we got Gloria DePaula and Cheyenne Bias, the only female bout on the main card. DePaula is looking for her first UFC win. Won on the Contender Series in 2020 and lost her UFC debut. So just another one. She's similar to Bias in that they're a grinding style fighter. A lot of their fights go to the decision. So this is more than likely going to be one of those bouts where it could be a slower pace. Just someone looking to stay in control. And just see who can ride out control more. Cheyenne Bias, same situation. Won her Contender Series fight, lost her debut. Lost her debut in March. So, kind of the same situation, same style of fighter as far as, just a grinding style, um, keep the pressure on style fighter. So we'll see how this one goes too. Like I said, probably if you want to make a bet on the main card, looking at them, which one's going to go to a decision, that's maybe the one you want to put the money down on as far as that kind of bet. And then we go to our co-main event, which is, to get it back up here, I'll tell you, is Kung Ho Kang and Hani Yaya, which are two seasoned veterans that are both very proficient on the ground. So in our last fight, it's two, and actually their record, DePaula's record is 5-3, Cheyenne Bai's record, similar records. Both won on the Contender Series, both lost their debut, both looking for their first UFC win. It's kind of the same situation here in this one. At 135, Kung Ho Kang 17-8, Hani Yaya 27-10-1. But both of them, the majority of their wins have come on the ground. Kang, a former Road FC champion, joined the UFC in 2013. He's been a solid fighter ever since. I think 11 of his 17 wins have come by submission. For Yaya, he's got 27 wins. I think it's 21 of his wins have come by submission. Everybody knows, if you go to the ground with Hani Yaya, it's not going to end up good for you. But the same thing can be said for Kang. So, we'll see typically when it's something like that, they don't try to see who's got the better ground game. It ends up being just a crazy striking battle. So that may be what we see here. Hani Yaya has no KO. He's got 27 wins, no KO or TKO wins as a professional. So, we'll see if that's probably not going to be the outcome. Then don't really see either one of these trying to go to the ground knowing how proficient, the other one is. So we'll see if it does end up with a knockout. Statistically right now it's looking like Kang will be the one to do it. If it goes to decision, we'll just see who can push the pace. Who's going to use the cage, maybe who's going to use the clinch, dirty boxing. Just keep the pressure. Whoever's the more pressure fighter in this one is definitely going to be the one to win, because I don't see a lot of ground activity. And then going to the main event, Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland. We'll take a look at each one's recent past here. Uriah Hall, 17-9. When he came off that season of The Ultimate Fighter, he kind of came into it. The UFC is desperate for replacements. They've always got to have, their star, and then who's their next star. Same thing. It's always there's Anderson Silva. Who's the next Anderson Silva? George St. Pierre. Who's the next George St. Pierre? It's always the next. It was Matt Hughes. Who's the next Matt Hughes? And it was GSP. So who's the next GSP? It's kind of that. Before Israel Adesanya was the next Anderson Silva, it was Uriah Hall. He kind of had his back and forth, in his record here. But right now he is on a 4-fight winning streak, as quiet as it may seem. And 3 of those are TKOs. He's got including over Anderson Silva. He's got that 4th round finish over Anderson Silva. His last one was that Chris Weidman. Weidman just broke his leg in half. That was 17 seconds into the first round. But aside from that, we know that Hall can go in there and put on a striking clinic. We know he can put people out. We've seen it firsthand several times. So, we know Sean Strickland's got to be careful. But Sean Strickland is, he's on a 4-fight winning streak of his own. So it seems like all these fights on the main card, they're all very similar. There's something that connects every fighter to their opponent. Like this one, they're both on 4-fight win streaks. Both, just as we talked about on the other fights. And, a big win for Sean Strickland of these 4 is, he's got a win over Brendan Allen, which I think is the only loss Brendan Allen has in the UFC. And it was a finish. Strickland got the 2nd round, TKO. So, Sean Strickland, is nobody to mess around with. He's got 2 losses since 2015, and one of them is to Kamaru Usman. So you can get in line on that one. There's a lot of people that can, say they have a loss to Kamaru Usman. But we'll see. We're really going to see how this plays out. Like any other bout, it's going to come down to pressure, and if Strickland can really upset Hall, get in his face, get in his mind, and just distract him and get him off his game and frustrate him. It's more so about the frustration level if he can get into his head and do that. Strickland, he's been around for a while. 30, and he's been around 2008 and made his pro debut. So this is not his first time in. He had a couple year layoff and then come back, and he's just been on fire ever since. So we'll see. Are there title implications in this main event? No. Neither one of these guys are going to get a title shot after this fight, but it's going to move somebody up to that, maybe that bottom top tier, that bottom, maybe put somebody right in the middle of the top 15. We'll see from there where it goes for these guys. But what's the sports betting website? Normally, I get a lot of it from DraftKings because I write for RotoBaller and we use DraftKings. So if you go to rotoballer.com, there's all the sports there. If you go to MMA, and then there's something called Player News. If you click that, I actually do all of those. It's like just a short breakdown of each individual fighter on the main card. And just and I do a lot of that. It does a pretty good job of getting you the odds. You can look at that and you can kind of get a pretty good idea in general of who's the favorite. It does a pretty good job. And I kind of base it off of that, and then afterwards I go over and I do a review. Being it's written for fantasy, it's obviously all statistically driven. Pretty much, it's not really so much like when I do color commentating, I'm doing an analysis. It's not like that. It's more of a statistical breakdown. For that, I love to go to ESPN, and look at the significant strikes, and takedowns and stuff. I like to use ESPN's for that. And then I'll go in, statistically, so and so had, 85 significant strikes and 140 total strikes. And, they were 4 for 5 on their takedowns. I'll do, a lot of that. But yeah, that is going to be that card right there. So we'll move on a little bit here. Bellator is also Saturday as well, and there's pretty decent fights here too. We'll just hit the main card real quick. That's going to be on Showtime as well. It looks like it starts at 6 p.m. Eastern. The Grand Prix finals of the featherweight title. Patricio Pitbull and AJ McKee. AJ McKee is undefeated, 17-0. Pitbull, is one of the faces of Bellator. Kind of from since they kind of had a face per se. It's always Pitbull's been right there. But they're gonna meet, and we'll see. I think McKee might get it. I could really see McKee getting it. I hate to say age plays a factor, but sometimes if he's just a little bit quicker and just and a lot of that, the first thing you lose is with age is speed. And McKee is just such a gifted, talented athlete. I could see him getting it, but you can't count out Pitbull. Just the dominance he's had over that division. God knows how many, 5 or 6 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row. He hadn't lost since Benson Henderson in 2016, and that was an injury. He's beaten Daniel Strauss, Daniel Weichel, Manuel Sanchez, first round knockout of Michael Chandler, Juan Archuleta. He's beaten everybody that's come before him. So we'll see. I'm just gonna go with McKee. The betting odds, I saw this was on Bellator's, I think just through Twitter or something. They had posted something, and like the betting odds that Bellator had up after their press conference today was literally the same. Like they were both, I think, -110, like the same betting odds. So we'll see. That may fluctuate a little. You may get your late money come in. We'll see. But man, breaking it down like statistically and looking at these guys physically, and yeah, it's hard to go one way or the other. I mean, you can't really be mad at somebody for going one way or the other. The co-main event, featherweights as well. Mads Burnell and Emmanuel Sanchez. Burnell, has been on a good little run himself. He's got several wins in 6 wins in a row. Had a low go in the UFC. 1-2 in the UFC, but then went to Cage Warriors, now in Bellator. So he's had a good little run. Emmanuel Sanchez, another one of those Bellator staples. One of those guys that's been in Bellator for a while. 2014, he's been in Bellator. And he's got some big wins. His last time in the cage was to Pitbull. So we'll see what happens with that one there. But the main event is definitely going to be huge. So we'll see how that goes. So that is the more global type MMA news. More locally in our regional MMA talk here, Bayou Fighting Championship back in action. January of 2020 was the last event. So it's been a while, almost 18 months since Bayou FC has been in action, but it's going to be in Gretna, just outside New Orleans, in that area, the Mellott Center. That is going to be Saturday, which is July 31st. It is going to be at 6 o'clock. I think the doors open, or 6:30. The doors open, and the first fight is supposed to start 7:30. You go to Bayou Fighting Championship Facebook page. You can see it. It's all there. I put it on every single press. I do the press releases for Bayou UFC. I put it in every single one. I still can't remember. I gotta look it up every time. I get mixed up on these times all the time. But main event, which I got the little card here. We'll take a look at it here as it stands as of right now. And these things can change so much. If there's one thing I've learned on working with a lot of regional MMA is that the fight card changes. If you have 10 changes on your card, like 8 of them are going to happen fight week. Like, it doesn't happen a couple weeks out where you can find somebody. It happens fight week. Every time, every event, for the years that I've helped organizations, it just happens that way. But as of right now, this is kind of what we're looking at here. Main event still intact. We got Jewel Scott and Justice Lamperez. Jewel Scott out of Mid City MMA. They're in New Orleans, so he's going to be the hometown favorite. Jewel always brings in an amazing crowd. If you've never seen him fight in person, every time he comes out, it's like a goosebump feeling, because everybody there knows who Jewel Scott is. Even if they didn't buy their ticket from him or come necessarily for him, they know who Jewel is when he comes out. He just has that persona. He's that character for the fight community of New Orleans. So he's in the main event against Justice Lamperez, who is out of Gladiators Academy of Lafayette under Tim Crater. And Justice, he had a rough go in the beginning of his amateur career and really turned it around. He really started to the end of there. He just kind of made the corner and went on a nice run. Turned into the pro ranks. Same thing, had a nice little run. His record may not be the best, but he fights tough competition. And that's a thing you got to look at too when you look at these records. Is almost like for college football, how they have their strength of schedule. It's almost the same thing for these fighters. And you got to look at someone may be 5-0, and then someone may be 2-3. But the guy who's 2-3 may beat the brakes off the guy who's 5-0 100% of the time, because you got to look at that strength of schedule. You got to look at who they fought. That's a huge thing. Is taking all that into consideration. He's fought some tough guys. And Jewel is is another one. Just another tough guy to add to his list. So main event status. He's going to be walking into enemy territory for sure. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. And obviously, that's a featherweight. There were supposed to be a few more pro fights on the card, but things happen, things fall through. I know Macy Bro had a fight, and that fell through. They were trying to get her a replacement, and I guess it just couldn't come to fruition. So hopefully, she can get on the card soon. And then same thing with Chris Crosby. I know something happened with that, so he wasn't able to participate on this card. But still got 11 fights. Headlined with that one. Jared Freeyouth, also from Mid City MMA, is defending his flyweight amateur title against Oliver Thomas. Jared's fought from several handful of organizations around the Gulf Coast area. Just he gets better and better every time. I've said it 1,000 times. That's the awesome thing about regional MMA, especially the amateurs, is watching them get better and better every time. Starting out 0-0 and 1-0, which there's a handful of these guys here, so it makes it exciting. And then to watch them, 5 or 6 fights later, and to see the progression. And this is Jared's a prime example. And then also definitely somebody to keep your eye on if you're able to get there in attendance is Duke Sensley out of NOLA MMA. 2-1, but he's got a ton of boxing, boxing background, amateur boxing as well. He took on a ton of fights, when MMA was down. So, somebody who still stayed active competitively. So that's definitely going to be, an interesting fight. That's at middleweight. So, that goes. Like I said, there's Chance Sims is a guy that trains with Chris Crosby out of Combat Athletics out in the Baton Rouge area. Just, very, flashy, fantastic type fighter to watch. Dangerous guy. If you train with Chris Crosby, obviously you're going to be dangerous on the ground no matter what. So, just a handful of fights. Definitely, got to check, those out. Like I said, that's Saturday, July 31st, Bellot Center in Gretna, Bayou Fighting Championship 45. I don't know if it's going to stream on the Facebook page. Sometimes it does, but I know it's not going to be on Fight TV or anything like that. So, like I said, go to Bayou Fighting Championship on the Facebook page, add it. If it does, you'll get a live notification. Just check it out and see if you can't make it to the show. Check out the Facebook like that. If not, we'll try. I'll get with Joe Ancona and see if maybe he wants me to just, as each fight finishes, post who fighter A wins by second round submission, whatever, something like that. Maybe we'll do something like that. So if we don't have a feed, at least you can keep refreshing it and stay on top of it. Also, we'll have it up on Tapology too. I know a lot of people love Tapology. I haven't put the card up yet. I'll do that tonight. I promise. I'll get the Tapology up for Bayou Fighting Bayou FC 45. The thing is, though, it doesn't update because you have to afterwards. You have to send them an email with the as the credential person for the organization. Then you have to email them that something from the commission and all kind of stuff. So it doesn't get up quick. So, but I'll have the card up at least so you can see the card. And like I said, maybe we'll see if we can do something on Facebook to where at least we can put out each fight result afterward. But we'll go ahead and do our last segment. Something I like. I love history. One of my minors is history, so I've loved history. It's always been my favorite subject. Which will bring us to this week in MMA history. So this is your history lesson for the week. Go ahead and pull this up here. So just a couple of events that happened this week. So 20 years ago today, Sakuraba became the first man to stop Quentin Rampage Jackson. That was with a submission at Pride. Sakuraba was definitely, just a special talent. Really helped that boom in MMA, especially in Japan. Just a huge, person to carry that on his back. 8 years ago, so July 27th, 2013, 8 years ago, which that would have been 8 years ago on Tuesday, Jorge Masvidal won with a Darce choke over Michael Chiesa, which won to submit Michael Chiesa, period. And then for it to be Jorge Masvidal, who's known for his striking, come in, the Kimbo Slice street fighting thing, with a Darce, pretty slick submission and then on somebody like Chiesa. So that's just pretty something cool to know. And also on that same day, July 27th, but in 1997, so 24 years ago Tuesday, Maurice Smith defeated Mark Coleman to win the UFC Heavyweight Championship. So a couple little things there, pretty cool. Hitting back from the top, add us on Twitter, AYS Fight Club, AYS_Fight Club. Add us on there, that way we can talk some more MMA all the time. And also on YouTube, everybody's got a YouTube. Go AYS Sports. Add us on there. Subscribe to the channel. Add us. Can't catch it on the Facebook. Catch it on YouTube. Just like I said, everybody's got a YouTube. Pull it up now. Go in there. Punch that in. Just do that for us. Give us a quick little thing. Same thing here on Facebook. If you're watching through Facebook, subscribe to the page. Like the page. Follow the page. Share the video. Share our other videos. Let's keep everything rolling here. So that's it for this week. Next week will be episode 41. My son does want to come on next week. He didn't want to come on this week because he said he wanted to prepare. So he's a lot like me with that. He's going to talk about what he thinks is next for Conor McGregor. He's got an interesting theory, too. So he wants to fully develop his theory, which is pretty good for a 12-year-old. It's a pretty good theory. So he'll be on. He's going to talk about his little theory there. So that'll be pretty cool. We'll see what happens with UFC, ESPN 28. Like I said, Bellator. We'll see who comes out on top with the featherweight title, and we'll talk about Bayou UFC. We'll see what happened there. Maybe we get in touch with the fighters or something. Maybe we'll get Jewel on. We'll see what he's up to. But for right now, that's it. So next week, same time, same place. We'll see about going to Fridays. I'll talk to Blake and see what we're gonna do. But just right now, we just stay how we are. That's it. Like I said, follow us on Twitter. Add us on the Facebook page. Go ahead and make sure like and follow, and catch y'all next week. So first with the Fight Club. Tell all your friends about Fight Club. We'll see y'all next week.